I want you to imagine this. You're standing in your kitchen at 2 a.m. holding your newborn son. Only now, staring down at his face under the dull flicker of the refrigerator light, something clicks in your brain that shouldn't. Something that makes your stomach drop. It's not just exhaustion, not just paranoia, not just the blur of being a new parent. No. It's something far more chilling, something primal. You suddenly know, this baby, the one you've been rocking, feeding, protecting, isn't yours. And I don't mean that in some vague emotional way. I mean biologically, deeply, this child does not belong to me. That realization ripped my entire world apart. And tonight, I'm telling you everything, because you deserve to know what I found. You came here for answers, and I promise by the end of this video you will get them. Now before we go deeper, let me say this to you, the one watching. Yeah, I see you. Whether you're a parent, a partner, someone who's been lied to, or someone who just can't stop clicking on twisted mystery stories at 3 a.m., you're in the right place. What you're about to hear is real. Not in the it could happen kind of way, but in the this shook my family to the core and made me question the one person I trusted most kind of way. And if you stick with me, if you watch all the way to the end, you're going to see just how deep a lie can go when it's wrapped in love, how even the ones closest to us can carry secrets so massive they'll burn everything down just to keep them hidden. Let's start from the beginning. My name's Eric. I'm a 29-year-old guy living in Pennsylvania, just your average suburban dad, or at least I thought I was. I work remotely doing IT troubleshooting for a cybersecurity firm. I've always been that dependable guy who answers texts fast, changes the smoke detector batteries before they chirp, and alphabetizes the spice rack when I'm anxious. Boring? Maybe. Safe? Definitely. Or, it used to feel that way. That was before my wife, Lauren, left me alone with our baby for the weekend, and everything I believed about my life started to rot from the inside out. Lauren and I have been married for 4 years. She's a nurse, NICU actually, which I used to think was this beautiful, poetic symmetry. She saved babies for a living, and now we had one of our own. We named him Oliver. 8 pounds, 2 ounces, a head full of dark hair like Lauren's, soft gray-blue eyes that seemed to change depending on the light. He was perfect. At least that's what I thought. That's what I needed to believe. The first 2 months of parenthood were chaos in the most familiar way. No sleep, no routine, a constant loop of burping, bouncing, diapering, and Googling things like why is my baby grunting like a goat at night and can newborns hold grudges. Every day blurred into the next, but that's part of the gig, right? It's the shared haze that binds new parents together. Or at least that's what it's supposed to be. But then, out of nowhere, Lauren told me she had to leave town for a nursing seminar, on short notice. Just a Friday to Sunday thing, she said. I remember her packing fast, her fingers trembling a bit while zipping her bag. I chalked it up to new mom nerves. Still, it was weird. She's not the impulsive type. And why hadn't I heard anything about this seminar until the night before? But I didn't press it. I told myself, Eric, you've got this. A whole weekend alone with your son. Dad mode activated. At first it was great. I mean, exhausting, sure, but something about being alone with Oliver felt bonding. Just me and him, no distractions. No nursing schedules or subtle criticisms about how I held the bottle or how I swaddled too loose. It felt like a real moment to step up as a father. I even FaceTimed Lauren a few times, though the calls were always short, her camera off, her voice oddly strained. She claimed she was tired from lectures, but something about her tone felt off. Almost like guilt. Now here's where things get strange, and I need you to listen closely. Saturday night around midnight, Oliver started crying in that way babies do when something's wrong. Not hunger, not gas. It was sharp, desperate, almost afraid. I rushed into the nursery, and the second I picked him up, something inside me paused. It's hard to explain. You know how we all have that gut instinct? That buried alarm system in our bones that's older than logic? Mine went off. I looked down at him, and suddenly I wasn't sure who I was looking at. His face looked different. Not dramatically, but subtly. Like someone had taken the real Oliver and swapped him with a perfect imitation that was just 2% wrong. The shape of his chin. The tilt of his eyes. Even his scent. Babies have that soft, milky smell, right? This one didn't. There was something sterile, almost synthetic about it. I told myself I was just sleep-deprived. That's the rational answer, right? But no matter how many times I whispered his name, no matter how many lullabies I hummed to calm myself, the truth crept in deeper. This was not my son. I didn't want to admit it. I couldn't. But then things snowballed. First, I noticed his birthmark was gone. Oliver had a tiny, faint blotch on the inside of his right ankle, shaped kind of like a heart. We used to joke it meant he was born with love. That night it was gone. Completely. I checked again and again, even took photos and compared them to older ones on my phone. No birthmark. Just smooth skin. Then I noticed the breathing, too even, too mechanical. I put my ear to his chest and felt like I was listening to a metronome. Not a human rhythm. It was off. By morning I was spiraling. I called Lauren, my voice shaking, asking if she'd noticed anything weird about the baby before she left. She was silent for a beat too long before brushing it off. "You're overtired, Eric. He's fine. You're fine." But I wasn't. I knew my baby. Every sound, every twitch. And this wasn't him. I tried calling my mother, asked if she could come over, take a look. She lived 30 minutes away and showed up around noon. She'd always had this sixth sense, you know? That maternal radar. But when she held him, she just smiled, cooed, said, "He's grown so much already." I wanted to scream. It was like she couldn't see what I saw. Was I losing my mind? I started searching online. Deep Reddit threads, dark parenting forums, keywords like baby switched, child imposter, changeling syndrome, maternal deception, even paranormal child replacement. I know how that sounds, but when your world starts to crumble, you don't think straight. You just claw for any explanation that makes the pieces fit. And then, late Sunday afternoon, Lauren came home. But not like someone returning from a conference. She came home like someone walking into a crime scene they weren't expecting to still be standing. Her eyes went wide when she saw me holding the baby, like she'd just remembered something urgent. And when I asked her, calmly but firmly, "Is this our son?" She didn't answer. That silence? That single, charged second before she opened her mouth? That changed everything. I knew in that moment I wasn't wrong. And the worst part is, what she eventually told me wasn't just one lie. It was layers. Secrets buried beneath more secrets. And the truth behind what she did, and why she did it, shattered everything I thought I knew about our marriage, our baby, even myself. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a second. After Lauren walked in and gave me that look, half shock, half guilt, I couldn't bring myself to lay down next to her, not even on the same mattress. She kept trying to play it cool, acting like I was the unstable one. "You're just exhausted, Eric," she said. "Being alone with a baby messes with your head." But the way her voice faltered, the way her eyes darted toward Oliver, not with affection but with calculation, told me she wasn't just gaslighting me. She was scared. Of what, I didn't know yet. But it wasn't just about a tired husband imagining things. There was something she didn't want me to find out. And in that silence between us, something darker began to stir. I kept playing her reaction over and over again in my head. Lauren wasn't emotional. She didn't panic easily, even in the delivery room when things got intense. She had this focused, clinical calm to her that usually made me feel safe. But now that same trait made her seem cold. Like she was managing me. Like I was a patient in her care, not her husband. And that's when I started thinking back to the last few months of her pregnancy. The late-night shifts she picked up even when I begged her to slow down. The quiet texts she'd step outside to take. The way she cried alone in the bathroom sometimes, saying it was just hormones, but locking the door like she was hiding something else entirely. Back then, I chalked it all up to stress. I wanted to believe we were still solid, that the baby would bring us closer. But now I couldn't stop questioning everything. I did what anyone else would have done in my situation. I started digging. The first thing I did was pull up Oliver's hospital paperwork, the birth certificate, his pediatric records. All the stuff they make you sign in those chaotic hours after delivery when you're too dazed to read fine print. Everything looked normal on the surface. But then I noticed something small, something most people would have missed. The hospital ID number on Oliver's wristband in the newborn photo we took didn't match the one on his discharge papers. One digit off. Just one. But enough. And once you see a crack like that, your brain starts picking at it until the whole thing splits open. I called the hospital under the pretense of needing a copy of the birth certificate. Spoke with a woman in records who was cheerful enough, until I gave her the ID number from the wristband photo instead of the one on file. Her tone changed. "That's not matching any file we have under your names," she said. I thanked her, hung up, and stared at the baby monitor watching Oliver, or whoever he was, sleeping peacefully in his crib. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just in my head. This wasn't exhaustion. This was real. Something had happened at that hospital. But I didn't tell Lauren what I'd found. Not yet. I wanted to see how far she'd go to maintain the lie. That night, I asked her casually if she remembered anything strange during delivery. Her eyes narrowed. "Why would you ask that?" she said. Just like that. Defensive. Like a cornered animal. And then she got real quiet. "There was a nurse who looked new," she added after a pause. Seemed nervous. Dropped a tray. I don't know, why are you asking me this? I shrugged. Just remembering things differently, I guess. But she didn't buy it. I could feel her watching me for the rest of the night like she knew I was slipping out from under the spell. That's when I started wondering if she was in on it, or if someone else was pulling the strings. See, what they don't tell you in all those parenting books is how vulnerable you are in those first hours after childbirth. You're exhausted, overwhelmed, emotional. You trust the nurses and staff with everything. They could tell you anything happened, and you'd believe it. You could be handed a baby, told it was yours, and you wouldn't question it because why would you? Who would even think to? But now that I had that crack in the wall, I couldn't stop pushing. I started going back through Lauren's emails. I know, privacy, trust, all that. But I had to. I had to know who she was talking to in those final weeks before labor. Buried in her inbox, I found a string of deleted messages with someone named Dr. H. No first name, no last name. Just initials. But they weren't work emails. These were private. Sent to a non-hospital address. One of the subject lines stopped me cold. Asterisk, the genetic results are in. Asterisk. She had never told me she did any genetic testing beyond the usual prenatal screenings. But according to one message, saved in a draft she must have forgotten to erase, it wasn't about disorders or health markers. It was about lineage. The email referenced something called Project 27, and a phrase that gave me chills. Asterisk, the surrogate will be compensated upon delivery. Asterisk surrogate. Surrogate. That word rattled around in my head like a bullet. We didn't use a surrogate. Lauren carried Oliver. I watched her body change. I felt him kick inside her belly. Unless the pregnancy had been staged, or worse, unless there had been a switch. A replacement. But for what? What? I wanted to confront her right there and then, but something held me back. What if she had a reason? A desperate, heartbreaking reason? What if she lost our baby and did the unthinkable to protect me from the truth? But the more I tried to find empathy, the more questions rose. If she didn't carry Oliver, how did she fake it? Or if she did, but he was taken or swapped, who had the power to do that under our noses? And that's when my mind went back to someone I hadn't thought about in a while, Caleb. Lauren's ex from her pre-nursing days. They broke up years before we met, but he'd shown up again last year out of nowhere, asking if we could grab coffee as friends. Lauren claimed it was nothing, that she just wanted closure. But I remember how weirdly intense he seemed when we met at a 4th of July party last year. He barely looked at me, spent most of the time holding our then-infant niece like he was testing something. Measuring. I remember Lauren brushing it off when I brought it up, saying, "That's just how Caleb is. He's awkward with people." But what if it wasn't awkwardness? What if it was calculation? I found his Instagram. Private. No photos. But his bio linked to a website, some low-traffic, bizarre blog filled with rants about gene editing, corporate-controlled reproduction, and something called air convergence theory. I'm telling you, some of the stuff on that site would make conspiracy theorists look tame. But one post in particular stuck out. It talked about how lineage can be stolen, how babies can be used as tools to infiltrate families, to reinsert genetic material into bloodlines without the father's knowledge. He claimed the future would belong not to the wealthiest or the smartest, but to those who could hack heredity. And that's when it hit me. What if this wasn't just personal? What if I wasn't the only one? What if other families were experiencing this too, but chalking it up to postnatal depression, marital stress, or worse, just moving on? Without ever realizing the baby in their crib wasn't theirs? I needed help. But I couldn't go to the police. What would I even say? "Hi, officer, I think my wife switched our baby with someone else's, but there's no proof and he looks like us mostly." They'd laugh me out of the precinct. No. I needed DNA proof. Something solid. Something undeniable. And that's when I remembered the old paternity test kit I bought as a prank gift for a friend's baby shower months ago. It was still in the hall closet. Still. I grabbed it with shaking hands, praying it still worked. While Lauren was in the shower the next morning, I swabbed Oliver's cheek in mine. Packed it up. Sent it off with expedited shipping. The results would take 5 days. 5 long days. And during that time, Lauren started acting different. She became more affectionate. Made me coffee in the mornings. Kissed my forehead. Touched me like she hadn't since before the birth. It was like she knew something was unraveling and she was trying to keep it stitched together. But what she didn't realize was, every sweet gesture only made me more certain she was hiding something enormous. You don't start acting like that unless you're trying to distract someone from seeing what's right in front of them. But what she didn't know was that I'd already found the hidden envelope in the bottom of the diaper bag. The one wedged under the backup wipes and old onesies. The one labeled, "Do not open unless emergency." And when I did, I found a photograph. A grainy black and white ultrasound with a date I didn't recognize, and a name I'd never heard before. It wasn't Lauren's. It wasn't mine. And whoever this woman was, she had carried a baby that, somehow, someway, was now sleeping peacefully in my house. And that baby was not ours. And still, there's one question I haven't told you the answer to yet. Who does he belong to? And why was he given to us? The morning the DNA results were supposed to arrive, I couldn't sit still. I'd barely slept the night before, pacing the hallway outside the nursery while Oliver, or whoever he was, slept without a sound. I kept checking the tracking app on my phone, refreshing it every 2 minutes like it would arrive faster if I stared hard enough. The air in the house felt heavy, like it was holding its breath along with me. Lauren had gone to the store, claiming we were out of formula, but I knew we had an unopened tub in the pantry. I think she sensed something was coming too. Maybe she just wanted to avoid being in the house when the truth hit me in the face. But just as the mail truck pulled up outside and I rushed out to meet it, heart pounding, palms sweaty, the envelope that was supposed to hold the answer to everything wasn't there. There was no DNA report. Just bills. Flyers. A catalog. I ran to the front porch thinking maybe the carrier left it in the wrong box. Nothing. I checked my email, digging through spam folders and promotions tabs until I found a chilling message from the lab. Your delivery status has been updated. Record not found. Contact support. I clicked the tracking link again. It was gone. Just gone. Vanished from the system like it had never existed. I called the customer service number, and after 30 minutes on hold, a woman calmly told me, "I'm sorry, sir, there's no record of any recent order under your name or email address." My voice cracked when I said, "That's impossible. I sent it 2 days ago. Overnight. I paid extra." She apologized again, offered me a discount on a future test, and hung up. That's when I realized someone didn't want me to get those results. And they weren't just hoping I'd give up, they were actively scrubbing my attempt to find the truth. I wasn't just fighting a secret anymore. I was up against something, or someone, powerful enough to make physical evidence disappear. Someone who had eyes on me. It hit me like a cold wave. They knew I sent that test. They knew what I was looking for. And now they were warning me. That night, I unplugged all our smart devices, covered the laptop cameras, even took the batteries out of our baby monitor. I wasn't being paranoid. I was being watched. A day later, I got a knock at the door. Not a package, not a friend. An actual knock, sharp and slow like someone wanted me to feel it in my chest. I opened it to find a man in a tan windbreaker. No badge, no ID, just a flat expression and mirrored sunglasses like something out of a movie. He handed me a plain manila envelope and said, "You're looking for something you don't want to find." Then he turned and walked back to his car without waiting for a reply. I stood frozen in the doorway, envelope shaking in my hands. Inside were 2 things, a photo of me in the hospital holding Oliver, dated 1 day before he was born, and a short handwritten note that said, "Stop before you ruin more than your life." I sat down on the living room floor, heart pounding, staring at the timestamp on the back of the photo. It made no sense. It was a photo that shouldn't exist. Unless time was wrong or someone was manipulating memories, or worse, events had been staged. Carefully. Calculatedly. That was the moment it really dawned on me. This wasn't about just one baby. This wasn't just about Lauren. I'd stepped into something far bigger, something that went way beyond marriage or parenthood. I triggered a response from people who operated in shadows. People who didn't send threats, they sent warnings. And still I couldn't stop. Something in me had already crossed the line. I started researching every person who had contact with us at the hospital. Nurses, orderlies, doctors. And that's when a name popped up again, Rebecca Grady. She wasn't our nurse, but she was on the floor during Lauren's labor. Her credentials checked out, but her social media was wiped clean. No Facebook, no Instagram. I finally found an old Twitter account, dead for 2 years, but in one tweet she mentioned something about a job she couldn't talk about but paid enough to forget her conscience. That stuck with me. I tried calling the hospital for her current contact info, but they told me she left the job 3 days after Oliver was born. No forwarding address. No contact number. It was like she disappeared. Another loose thread yanked clean from the fabric. Then came the biggest blow, when I finally confronted Lauren with the photo. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared at it like she was waiting for it to appear. Like she'd been expecting it to surface eventually. I asked her again one last time, "Who is he, Lauren? Who is Oliver really?" Asterisk, her eyes filled with something close to pity. She whispered, "You don't understand. You weren't supposed to be part of this." And that's when she said it, words I still hear in my sleep. Asterisk, "You were the control." Asterisk, that stopped everything. The control? I demanded she explain, but she clammed up. I could see the war playing out in her eyes. She wanted to protect me, or at least protect herself. But now I wasn't just part of a broken marriage. I was part of something much bigger. Something organized, coordinated, scientific. And I had no idea who the test subjects were, or what the test was. Then 2 nights ago someone broke into our house. Nothing was stolen. Nothing broken. But the nursery camera, one-eyed disabled, was turned back on, facing the crib. I checked the footage and found a 3-second clip at 3:14 a.m. A figure standing over Oliver. No face visible. Just the sound of a mechanical hum, then a whisper caught faintly in the mic. Asterisk, "He's adapting faster than the others." Asterisk, "I know what you're thinking. Sounds like science fiction. Like some viral short film. But I swear to you, this is real. And I'm not the only one." I found threads, stories, other parents asking similar questions online only to go silent days later. One woman in Oregon posted about her baby changing overnight. Then her entire account was deleted. A man in Michigan claimed his son's blood work didn't match his or his wife's. He was found unresponsive in his car a week later, ruled a suicide. Now I'm living in fear of what I'll find next. Of what I'll lose. Of who's really controlling this story. And the worst part? Lauren's no longer trying to hide it. She's embracing it. There's this haunted peace about her now. Like she's finally done pretending. And when I asked her again, asterisk, "Why us?" Asterisk, she didn't answer. She just said, "They'll come soon. And when they do, let them take him. It's safer that way." And that was the first time I realized she didn't mean let them take our son. She meant give them back what was never ours to begin with. And then she handed me a key I'd never seen before. And said it opened a storage unit she swore never existed. What I found inside that unit. You're not ready for it. But I'm going to show you. Because once you see it, you'll finally understand how far a lie can go when everyone around you is in on it. The key Lauren gave me felt oddly warm in my hand, like it had just been used. Heavy, worn, its teeth dulled from age or use. I couldn't tell which. She didn't say anything after handing it to me. Just walked past me into the kitchen like it was a normal Sunday morning and not the climax of a psychological thriller unraveling right inside our home. I stood there frozen, replaying her words. Asterisk, "It opens a storage unit I swore never existed." Asterisk, not past tense. Swore. Meaning it still mattered that I didn't know. Meaning it still mattered that someone else believed I wasn't supposed to find it. That the truth inside the unit hadn't been meant for me. I drove straight there. 20 minutes outside of town, in a bleak self-storage lot off Route 9, tucked behind a failing bowling alley and a vape shop that had been going out of business for the past 2 years. It was the kind of place people rented when they needed to hide something they couldn't bear to throw away but couldn't risk keeping in their homes. The front office was empty, door propped open with a traffic cone. No sign-in, no attendant, just a dusty CCTV camera blinking red above the front desk. I didn't wait. I followed the numbers until I reached Unit 117, tucked into the back row beneath a flickering security light that buzzed like a dying insect. My hand was trembling as I slid the key into the lock, a part of me still praying it wouldn't fit, that maybe this was all just some twisted game Lauren was playing. But it turned easily like it belonged. The door groaned upward and the first thing that hit me wasn't what I saw, it was what I smelled. Antiseptic. Like a hospital. Mixed with something faintly metallic like dried blood on steel. Inside there was a single metal shelving unit and a plastic storage bin. The shelf held file boxes, each labeled in code, alphanumeric tags like S28B and DLM9 scrawled in black marker. The bin was sealed with duct tape, but one edge was curling. I peeled it open with dread sitting in the center of my chest like a lead weight. Inside were hospital gowns, a pair of latex gloves, and a VHS tape. Not a flash drive. Not a disc. A VHS tape. Like it was left there on purpose to be just difficult enough to play in today's world. Someone didn't want this seen by just anyone. They wanted a specific person to work for it. To want the truth badly enough to hunt down an old VCR. I drove straight to my mom's house. She still had one, hooked up to the old box TV in the guest bedroom, half buried under doilies and dusty porcelain dolls. I told her I needed to borrow it, that it was for a project. I must have looked unwell because she didn't ask questions. She just handed it over, smiling nervously like she knew asking would only invite answers she didn't want. Back at home, I hooked it up to the flat screen using a converter I hadn't touched in years, then pressed play. The screen flickered, lines skittering across the picture until they cleared, revealing a hospital delivery room. Not a dramatization. A real room. Medical staff moved in and out of frame. The footage was from a high corner angle like it was meant for security, not medical use. At the center of the screen was a woman in labor. I leaned forward, breath caught in my throat. It wasn't Lauren. It was someone else. Someone I didn't recognize. Her face contorted in pain, but she wasn't screaming. No sound came through. The tape was silent. After the birth, a nurse walked the newborn over to a side table, wiped him down and, without hesitation, swapped him for another. She picked up a second baby from a concealed carrier on the floor, identical size, identical blanket, and walked back to the mother holding that child. My stomach turned. I watched again. Slower. I checked the timestamp in the bottom corner. The date matched Oliver's birthday. This was that day, but it wasn't Lauren on the table. And the woman, she had the same face as someone I'd just seen recently. But I couldn't place it. Until my phone rang. It was my sister Melanie. She never calls this early, especially not since we had that argument a year ago. I hesitated, then answered, and her voice came through, tight, panicked, not even bothering with a hello. Eric, I got a package today. I didn't know what to say. My ears were still buzzing from the footage. A package? I managed. She exhaled hard. Yeah. No return address. Just my name. Inside was a photo of me in a hospital bed holding a baby. But I never had a baby. You know, I never did. Eric, it was me, it was my face. But I swear to God, I've never been pregnant. The world tilted. I had to sit down. I asked her to describe the photo. The room. The background. There was a nurse in the photo, she said. And a monitor in the corner. Why? I swallowed. Because I just saw that same monitor. Same nurse. In a video. Mel, what the hell is happening to us? She didn't answer at first. And then, in a shaking voice, she whispered, there was a note, too. In the envelope. It just said, you were meant to forget. I drove to her house. Didn't wait for her to say yes. When I got there, she handed me the photo, her hand trembling so badly she dropped it twice before I caught it. And there it was. My sister, dressed in a hospital gown, holding a newborn with the same exact birthmark Oliver had before it vanished. It was faint, but it was there. A heart-shaped blotch on the right ankle. My head spun. I felt like I was in a dream I couldn't wake up from. I turned to Melanie, my voice dry. What if you had a child and they made you forget? She stared at me, eyes wide with horror. Made me forget? Who? That question keeps ringing in my ears. Because if this happened to her too, if someone is swapping children, manipulating records, erasing memories, then this isn't just about my family. It's a network, a system, maybe even an experiment. But to what end? Why babies? Wasp. Later that night, Lauren walked into the living room and saw the photo on the table. She froze. I watched her face shift from recognition to dread. And then she whispered a name I'd never heard before, Dr. Kellen. I asked who that was. She wouldn't say. Just kept whispering. He said we'd never be connected. He promised we'd never be linked. That's when I knew. Lauren wasn't just a participant. She was a test subject. Or maybe worse, a facilitator star. And now the people behind this know that we know. There's a black car parked across the street right now. Same one from 2 nights ago. Lights off. Engine running. No one gets out. No one ever does. But tonight I'm not waiting. Because I'm starting to believe the baby sleeping in my house, the one they gave us, the one they took from somewhere else, was never meant to live. And if that's true, we're not just keeping a secret. We're keeping something alive that they want back. Whatever happens next, one thing is certain. We've already gone too far to turn back. I used to think fear was a cold emotion, something that froze your spine, numbed your hands, stole your breath. But real fear, true soul-shaking fear, burns. It doesn't paralyze, it lights a fire in your blood, makes your heart slam like a fist against your ribs, and shoves your mind into overdrive, scrambling to connect dots that refuse to align. That's what I felt when I walked into the nursery that next morning and found the crib empty. The blankets were folded, the pacifier still tucked neatly in the corner, but Oliver, he was gone. There was no broken window. No open door. No sound. Just absence. It hit me like a punch to the chest. I collapsed right there, on my knees beside the crib, yelling his name in a whispery panic, my voice dry and cracked like I hadn't used it in days. The house was too quiet. Lauren was gone too. No note, no text, not even a call. It was like they'd vanished into thin air. At first, I convinced myself she took him for a walk. That she needed space. That maybe this was just another layer of the game she was playing, except I knew deep down this wasn't a game anymore. Not with the car still parked outside, its darkened windows watching. Not with the way Melanie had started ignoring my texts after she showed me that hospital photo. Not with the VHS tape still sitting in the player, its screen frozen on that silent image of a baby being swapped under cold fluorescent lights. I knew something had happened. And it wasn't random. It was targeted. Planned. I tore through the house like a madman, flipping cushions, checking closets, yanking drawers open until the silverware clattered onto the floor and my knuckles were raw from pulling at things that didn't move. I found Lauren's phone, left behind on the nightstand, screen wiped, no messages, no call log. Only one app still installed. A calendar. Just one entry, drop, 9 a.m. It was 9:06. My pulse spiked. I rushed to the front porch, barefoot, heart pounding against my ribs like it wanted to break free and run ahead of me. The black car was gone. Just an oil mark in the street where it had been. It felt like the world had shifted beneath my feet, like reality had split in two and I was standing in the crack between both versions. I drove. I didn't know where I was going. Just drove. Empty roads, lights blurring past, every car in my rearview mirror feeling like it was following me. And then one was a white van, no logos, no plates, started tailing me around 9:30. I took 3 random turns, doubled back down a side street, even pulled into a gas station and parked. The van idled across the street. Never moved. When I finally took off again, it merged back behind me like a shadow with wheels. I kept driving until I hit a dead zone. No signal, no bars, and that's when my engine stuttered. Not stalled. Stuttered, like someone had remote access. My dashboard lights dimmed. The radio flickered on, static, then silence, then a voice I didn't recognize whispering something garbled. My name was in there. I swear I heard it. Once. Twice. Eric. Then static again. That was when I stopped the car, got out, and ran. I didn't care where I was. I left my phone, my wallet, everything in the car. I just ran until I hit the woods near Penn Lake and dropped behind a cluster of trees, lungs burning, hands shaking. That's when I saw the van again, creeping down the road, slower this time like it was hunting. But no one got out. No windows rolled down. It just rolled past and then, it was gone. Disappeared into the trees like a ghost. I stayed in those woods for what felt like hours, crouched under dripping branches, mind spinning in 1,000 directions. Who were they? What did they want with Oliver? Was Lauren part of this still, or had she tried to run too? And why the hell was I still breathing if they could make people disappear so easily? I thought about the VHS tape, the photo of Melanie, the hospital records that didn't match, the genetic testing she tried to hide, the nurse who disappeared, the envelope from the man in mirrored sunglasses. All of it suddenly felt like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle made from entirely different boxes. I didn't know where the edges were. I didn't even know what the picture was supposed to be. But I knew someone, maybe something, had taken my son. And they weren't going to stop there. By the time I made it back to my car, the van was gone, and the vehicle had been turned off completely. Dead battery. Hood popped. Someone had pulled the cables. I opened the glove box out of desperation, and that's when I found it, a burner phone. Not mine. Brand new. Still sealed until recently. And it vibrated as soon as I touched it. One message. No sender. Just one sentence. Asterisk, you have until midnight. Then we reset everything. Asterisk. I didn't understand what that meant. Reset everything? What was there to reset? Our memories? Our lives? Our identities? The word reset felt clinical, like a process, like this wasn't an emotional crime, it was protocol. And suddenly I wasn't just scared for my family. I was scared for my own mind. What if I'd been reset before? What if this was the second time Oliver had been taken, and I just didn't remember? The thought gutted me. I drove home in silence, in a borrowed car from a friend who thought I was just dealing with a family emergency. I didn't correct him. What would I even say? That my wife gave birth to a child she never carried? That my sister received a photo of a baby she never birthed? That I was being followed by faceless people who spoke through static and whispered my name in the woods? When I walked back into the house, it felt smaller. I walked into the kitchen and saw something that hadn't been there before. A small, black box sitting in the middle of the table. Unmarked. Plain. But when I opened it, there was only one thing inside. A pacifier. Not Oliver's. This one was darker. Worn, and stitched into the rubber in tiny lettering almost too small to see, were the initials EW. My initials. I don't know how to explain that to you. I don't even know how to explain it to myself. But I sat there, staring at that pacifier, my hands trembling, and a single thought pierced through the static in my brain like a needle through skin. What if I wasn't the father? What if I wasn't even the first version of me? What if this, my life, my child, my wife, was all part of something far bigger, something recursive, something that resets again and again until someone gets it right? And what if this time, they think I've gone too far? I haven't heard from Melanie since that morning. Her apartment is empty. Her mail is piling up. Her voicemail's full. I think she's gone. And I think I'm next. But not before I find out who's pulling the strings. Because if I'm living in a lie, then it's time I learn who wrote it. I always thought the scariest feeling in the world was not knowing. The waiting. The silence. The sense that something terrible is about to happen, but you don't know when or how. But I was wrong. The scariest feeling is when you do know, when the pieces finally lock together and the picture they make isn't just wrong, it's impossible. That moment hit me like a train the night I went to Melanie's apartment one last time, just hoping for any sign of where she went. Her neighbors hadn't seen her in days. The door was locked and the windows were dark. But I had her spare key. I still had it from college, back when she used to crash on my couch during breakups and bad jobs. I figured I'd go in, check her laptop, her mail, just something. But I never expected to find someone already inside, sitting in the dark, waiting for me. It was Lauren. Not shaken. Not afraid. Calm. Like she'd been expecting me. She didn't flinch when I stepped in. She just looked up and said, "You weren't supposed to remember." I felt the floor give way under my feet. "Where's Oliver?" I asked. My voice came out thinner than I wanted. But she didn't answer. Instead, she picked up an envelope from the coffee table and slid it toward me. "You need to see this," she said. Inside the envelope was a birth certificate. Not Oliver's. Mine. Only it wasn't the one I'd grown up with. This one was dated 8 years later. Same name. Same parents. But the hospital was different. The time of birth different. The signature different. At first I thought it was fake. A threat. Some kind of mental game. But then Lauren pulled out a photo, one of those old Polaroids with the white border, and handed it to me. "You were born in 1994, right?" she asked. I nodded slowly. "But this," she said, "was taken in 2002. The photo was of a newborn. Wrapped in a blue blanket. Same birthmark on the shoulder. Same swirl of dark hair. And written on the back, in faint pencil, were the words, subject number 17 approved for emotional integration protocol. Reset scheduled. I couldn't breathe. My legs gave out and I sat on the floor, the photo shaking in my hands. "What the hell is this?" I whispered. "Who am I?" Lauren knelt beside me. For a second I saw the woman I married, the one who kissed me after long days and cried when Oliver first laughed. But then I saw it, the shift in her eyes. Not malicious. Not cold. But clinical. Like she was watching a patient remember his own diagnosis. "They built us, Eric," she said. "All of us. Me. Melanie. We're not blood. We're not chosen. We were placed. Structured into each other's lives to create the illusion of connection. So they could test what bonds hold and which ones break." She leaned closer, lowering her voice to a whisper. "We're part of something bigger. But you weren't supposed to dig. That VHS you found? That wasn't from a hospital. That was from a reset room. A simulated delivery. You were watching yourself being born. Again." I backed away, bow rising in my throat. "That's not possible. I have memories. Parents. I remember my life." But Lauren just shook her head. "Do you? Or do you remember what they uploaded? Emotional simulation leaves real scars. They figured out how to code trauma. Inject it into backstory. Make you feel like you've earned your pain." It was too much. My head throbbed. My body was cold and buzzing all over. And then Lauren said the one thing that shattered the last thread of denial I was holding onto. "Melanie was the control subject," she said. "She wasn't supposed to remember either. But she did. And she started reaching out to the others. That's why she had to disappear." My mouth went dry. "You killed her?" "No," she said. You did. Last cycle. And they wiped you after. I don't remember leaving that apartment. I don't remember how I made it home. I just remember standing in my hallway, staring at my reflection in the mirror, wondering if I'd seen that face before under a different name. A different version. If I was just another iteration of the same test. And worse, I wondered if Oliver was even real. Or if he was the next phase of the simulation. An emotional payload dropped into my life to monitor what I'd become. Not a son. Not a person. Just data. That night, I dug out everything I had. Photos. Journals. Emails. I looked for anything that proved I had existed before, and what I found made my blood run cold. My old photos were edited. People in the background repeated, same clothes, same expressions. Like cut and paste figures. My college diploma had the wrong font. My emails only dated back 5 years. Even my memories of Melanie as a child were suspiciously vague, like they'd been filled in with generic placeholders. I'd spent my life chasing normalcy, convinced something small had gone wrong. But now I realized, everything had been wrong from the start. And the final twist came in a place I never thought to check, Oliver's nursery. I pulled apart his toy chest, clawing through stuffed animals and blankets, until I found a small wooden box tucked in the back corner. Inside was a single USB drive. No label. Just a number etched into the wood, Cycle 12. I plugged it into my laptop, hands shaking. The screen went black for a moment. Then a video started playing. It was me. Sitting in the same room. Same clothes. Same everything. And I was saying, if you're watching this, it means you've broken the loop again. You're not supposed to. But you always do. You always find Oliver. You always trust Lauren. And she always resets you. You're not getting out until you stop asking the wrong question. Stop asking who took your son. Start asking why he exists at all. The video ended with one final frame. A logo. Simple white text over black. Neural kin. Emotional Architecture Division. US Test Grid 9.07. I stared at it, heart racing, a single thought spiraling in my mind. How many times have I lived this life? And how many times have I failed to escape? Whatever this is, it isn't over. And I'm not the only one still trapped in it. It was the sound of Oliver calling for me that broke the trance. I was still staring at the screen, the neural kin logo glowing like a wound, when I heard his voice, soft, sleepy, muffled through the baby monitor. That voice had always grounded me, pulled me out of my worst moments, reminded me what mattered. But now it struck me with a terrible, unbearable weight. Because suddenly I didn't know if that voice was his, or something designed to feel like it. The line between love and manipulation had been blurred so badly that even the most innocent sound in my home felt like part of a script I wasn't supposed to see. I went to his room trying not to fall apart. He was still there, thank God, curled up under his dinosaur blanket, his little hand gripping the corner like he always did when he was scared. He looked up at me, eyes wide and vulnerable, and asked, "Daddy, do I have to go away again?" I froze. My heart nearly stopped. "What do you mean, buddy?" I asked, kneeling beside him. He hesitated, then said softly, "The other man said it last time. When we were in the white place. He said you forgot me, but I still remembered you. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't." I sat in the hallway outside his door, laptop in one hand, the USB in the other, trying to make sense of what he'd said. The white place. That wasn't just a child's dream. It was something. A reset facility? A lab. Had he seen it before? Had I? If my son remembered something I didn't, then he was either part of the test, or a victim of it. Either way, someone had put memories in his head they had no right to touch. And that crossed every line I'd ever drawn. By morning I had made a decision, one that terrified me to my core. I had to confront Lauren. Not just for answers, but to make her choose too. Because this wasn't just my story anymore. It was Oliver's. And I wasn't going to let him grow up in a life programmed for someone else's experiment. I waited until she came home. She walked in like nothing had changed, coat off, keys on the table, phone in her hand. I saw her glance toward Oliver's room, that little maternal flicker I'd once believed was pure love. Maybe it still was. But I didn't know anymore what was real and what was embedded. She looked at me and paused. "You found the video," she said. I nodded. "We need to talk." She set her phone down slowly. "You're angry. I get it. You should be. But before you say anything, you need to know something. They're watching. Right now." "I don't care," I said louder than I intended. "I'm done playing along. Either you tell me everything, or I walk, tonight. And I take Oliver with me." Her face twisted, not in anger but in sorrow. That scared me more than if she'd screamed. "You can't just take him," she said. "He's not yours." I stepped forward. Don't you dare say that." "I'm not talking about biology," she said. "He's not assigned to you anymore. He hasn't been for the last 3 cycles. You keep breaching protocol. You're unstable. The last version of you lost him in a runaway protocol after the first memory leak. That's why they restructured everything. That's why they put me here. To keep you from fracturing again. The room spun. My hands curled into fists without me realizing. So what am I supposed to do? Just keep living this fake life knowing it's not mine? Let them erase us over and over again because it's safer? No, she said quietly. You're supposed to choose. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small metal device, sleek, black, palm-sized, with a single pulsing red light in the center. This is a hard reset trigger. One-time use. No memory carryover. If you press it, you'll wake up in a new iteration, clean slate, new roles, no past. You'll forget Oliver, forget me, forget any of this ever happened. I stared at it. My skin prickled with cold. And if I don't? They'll come for you. You've already breached containment. The protocol says anyone who achieves cross-cycle memory retention has to be extracted. No exceptions. I can't protect you this time. The choice she was offering wasn't a choice at all. Forget the truth, or be hunted for it. And the worst part was she wasn't lying. I could see it in her eyes. The pain. The resignation. She didn't want to offer this, but she had no other option. I looked back toward Oliver's room. My little boy, asleep behind a thin wall, unaware that his fate hinged on a decision no parent should ever have to make. Forget him and start fresh, or fight for him and risk being torn apart from him forever. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, blindfolded, with only a memory to guide me. I can't do it, I said. My voice broke. I can't forget him. I don't care what he is. I love him. Lauren nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. I hoped you'd say that. But then she whispered something that shattered what little was left of my understanding. He said the same thing the first 12 times. Before I could even react, a sudden vibration rolled through the house. The lights flickered. My phone buzzed with a single notification. Subject number 17 in active defiance. Purge authorization in progress. That was when the front door burst open. And all I could think as I grabbed Oliver from his bed and bolted for the back door, was that I didn't know who was chasing me. But I knew they had been watching for a long, long time. And they were finally ready to end the test. We didn't make it far. The alley behind our house led to a narrow service road, but even there, it felt like we were already surrounded. My breath was ragged. Oliver clung to me like he knew this was more than just a late-night escape, and my pulse never stopped hammering in my ears. There were no sirens, no shouting, just this eerie mechanical silence, like the world had muted itself to let whatever was coming slip in undetected. I ducked behind a dumpster, shielding Oliver's head with my jacket, trying to plan our next move, but before I could think, my phone buzzed again. Not a call this time. A notification from an app one didn't recognize, protocol breach, map tracking enabled. It was already pinpointing my location in real time, red dot pulsing like a heartbeat. I threw the phone, but the damage was done. They knew where we were. And worse, someone had given them access. Lauren. She wasn't behind me anymore. She hadn't followed us through the back. I didn't want to believe it, couldn't believe it, but somewhere deep in my gut, I knew. She'd known exactly what would happen the second I said no. She'd even cried like she hated the part she had to play. But that didn't stop her from playing it. She had delivered me to them again. Maybe every version of her had. Maybe she wasn't Lauren at all, not the woman I married, not the mother of my child, but just another control unit with a friendly face and enough emotional memory to keep me pacified. I kept running. Through the dark, past the industrial park, into the thick woods behind the old rail yard. Oliver said nothing, but I could feel his small heart pounding against my chest every time I shifted my grip. My legs burned, my lungs felt like gravel, but I didn't stop until I saw it. A light blinking faintly ahead beneath an abandoned freight bridge. Not floodlights. Not drones. Just a single lantern sitting next to a man wrapped in a gray poncho, sitting on a folding chair like he was waiting for a bus. He looked up at me and smiled. "Took you long enough," he said. I nearly collapsed. I recognized him instantly. Alan Mathers. My old college roommate. A software engineer who disappeared a decade ago. No goodbye, no explanation. We all thought he'd taken a job in Europe or joined some startup in stealth mode. He just vanished. But here he was, older, thinner, a deep scar running from his temple to his jaw. "How the hell are you here?" I asked. "I've been watching your loop for weeks now," he said. "I'm part of EchoCell. We're the ones who tried to warn you." EchoCell. I remembered the name from the video, the warning I'd dismissed as digital paranoia. I thought they were hackers, conspiracy nuts, maybe ex-employees turned whistleblowers. But now he was standing right in front of me, and nothing about his expression looked unhinged. "They're not just using you," he said. "They're using thousands. All over the country. Every suburb, every city, every fake family dinner you ever had, they're staging those too. It's one giant human experiment running across North America. You're node 17. But there are at least 230 confirmed loops we've tracked, probably more." "That's not possible," I said, clutching Oliver tighter. "I would have noticed. People would have noticed." "No," he said. "You wouldn't. That's the point. Each test is insulated. Memories, patterns, neighbors, all fabricated. Even the pain, the loss, the moments that feel too real, those are recycled traumas mapped to your neural fingerprint. You don't notice because you're programmed not to, until something breaks. Like it did with you." I staggered back, heart racing. My whole life, every moment of grief and love and fear, was it all just part of a data loop? "Why?" I asked. "Why go through all of this? To build better control models," he said. "For tech, for government, for corporations. They want to predict human emotion before it happens. Optimize behavior. Prevent dissent. This isn't about replacing people. It's about making people predictable." Suddenly, a rustling came from the trees behind us. Alan dropped his voice to a whisper. "We don't have much time. They sent someone else. Someone close to you." Then a flashlight beam cut through the branches, and I saw him. My brother. David. The last person I ever expected to see again. He died in a car crash 6 years ago. Or so I thought. But here he was, walking toward me with a badge on his chest and a stun baton in his hand. His eyes, dead calm like a soldier following orders, locked onto me with recognition. "Hey, little brother," he said. "You weren't supposed to get this far." I couldn't speak. My throat seized. David wasn't just alive, he was part of it. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," he continued. "We're still in a conditional window. You come with me now, you don't lose full continuity. You can keep Oliver. Keep your job. They'll reassign Lauren, let you forget all this ever happened." "You work for them?" I whispered. "You've been part of this the whole time?" He nodded, almost apologetically. "Everyone you trust does." And in that moment, something inside me shattered for good. The conspiracy wasn't just a handful of strangers in black vans. It was everyone. My wife. My brother. My neighborhood. My memories. My reality. All fake. And somehow still real enough to break my heart. Alan didn't hesitate. As soon as David stepped forward, he pulled something from under his poncho, a crude EMP device rigged from scavenged drone parts, and slammed the trigger against the rusted bridge post. It discharged with a pulse that made my ears ring and the air shimmer. David froze mid-step, eyes flickering, a faint twitch running down his jaw like a glitch in a game. His flashlight dropped, hissing on the wet ground. Alan grabbed my arm and shouted, "Run! He's in recovery loop. It won't hold long." We sprinted into the trees, leaves slicing past us. Oliver still clutched in my arms, his small voice whimpering, "Is Uncle David okay?" But there was no time to explain that Uncle David was a shadow of something real, a weapon wearing my brother's skin, programmed to make me choose obedience over truth. We reached a clearing just as Alan collapsed against an old drainage tunnel, his breath ragged. "This is it," he gasped. "The access port. We can get you inside the local server stack. You plug this in." He handed me a dented flash drive wrapped in black tape, and everything syncs. All the evidence. All the logs. Their entire project database. It'll push to the surface web. Reddit, YouTube, Twitter, instant exposure. "But I'm not a hacker," I said, shaking. "What if I mess it up? What if they shut it down before it uploads?" "You're not just a subject," he said. "You're the breach. You were always the breach." Before I could ask what that meant, a low hum began to rise from the trees behind us. Not a drone, not a vehicle. A voice. "Lauren." No, not the Lauren I married. The voice was hers, but flat, mechanical, projected from speakers hidden in the woods. "You're hurting him, Alex," it said sweetly. "Bring Oliver back. Let us make this right." Alan shoved me toward the tunnel. "Go," he screamed. "You're almost there." I crawled through the damp concrete pipe, heart pounding, Oliver pressed against my chest, every inch of me screaming to turn back. But I didn't. At the end of the tunnel was a rusted service hatch. Alan's code scrawled in Sharpie on the wall. V equals 2462 / manual override / unlock equals truth. I typed it in. The door clanked open. Inside was a single room. Sterile. Windowless. Lit by bluish LED strips. Dozens of monitors lined the walls, all showing different homes, different faces. Some were mine. Me brushing my teeth. Me reading to Oliver. Me having breakfast with Lauren. But others weren't. Other versions of me. Slightly different homes. Slightly different wives. In one, Lauren had red hair. In another, I had a scar down my neck. All smiling. All recorded. A multiverse of control. The terminal sat in the middle of the room like a forgotten altar. I slid the flash drive in. The system blinked to life. Data scrolled so fast it blurred. Neural maps, behavioral metrics, surveillance timestamps, loop IDs, thousands of them. I hit execute. The upload began. That's when she stepped through the far wall. Not Lauren. Not exactly. This version of her was taller, colder, eyes like cracked glass and skin too smooth, too perfect. The projector shimmered behind her, flickering with static as she moved closer. "Why couldn't you just let yourself be happy?" she asked. "We gave you a family, a life, everything you ever wanted. Why tear it down?" I stepped in front of Oliver. Because none of it was real. Her eyes narrowed. "And what is real, Alex? Divorce? You know what waited for you outside the loop? You were alone. Your real wife left you. Your son never lived past birth. We gave you a chance to heal." My body went still. I couldn't breathe. "That's a lie." "No," she said. "That's the truth." The monitors flicked again. Now they showed footage from hospitals. Police reports. Death certificates. A small empty crib. A bottle never opened. My name signed beneath a coroner's statement. The documents were dated. The names matched. The grief was mine. My knees buckled. "You chose us," she whispered. "You just don't remember." Tears blurred my vision. I wanted to scream. To tear the monitors down. To deny it all. But somewhere deep down I knew it could be true. That maybe I'd wanted this lie more than I realized. That the loop hadn't been a prison. It had been my escape. But Oliver was real now. I could feel his heartbeat, his breath on my neck. "I don't care," I said, voice shaking. "I'll take the pain." She stepped forward again, reaching toward me. "You don't have to." I grabbed the nearest chair and smashed the server terminal. The lights blew out. The room plunged into darkness. Somewhere behind me, alarms began to wail. I scooped up Oliver, ran through the emergency access door, burst into cold air, and saw in the sky above 1,000 cell phones lighting up with the leaked data. Posts going viral. Asterisk asterisk secret behavioral experiments exposed asterisk asterisk dot. Asterisk asterisk my life was a simulation. Proof inside. Asterisk 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 the truth about loop protocols. Asterisk asterisk YouTube thumbnails already populating the trending page. The truth spreading like wildfire. And then, silence. No Lauren. No David. Just me. Holding Oliver. And then I looked at him. He smiled, but not a child's smile. Not a human smile. He looked up at me, eyes glinting with something ancient, something watching. And he whispered, "Did I do good, Daddy?" The voice wasn't his. It wasn't mine either. And in that moment I realized, I wasn't the one being tested. He was. The weeks that followed were a blur, a strange mix of silence and noise, like waking up from a long half-remembered dream. I left the city. There was no announcement, no press conference, no official apology. The agency, whoever or whatever had orchestrated the loop, vanished as quietly as it had emerged, leaving behind only viral wreckage. Social media exploded for a time. Asterisk asterisk my reality was fake. Here's the proof asterisk asterisk. Asterisk asterisk government simulation leaked asterisk asterisk. Asterisk asterisk the man who broke the loop asterisk asterisk dot. But then, like all trending stories, the truth was swallowed by the algorithm. Dissected, mocked, sensationalized, and forgotten. There were debates on Reddit, reaction videos on YouTube, dramatic TikToks with AI voiceovers and creepy background music. But eventually new trends replaced the story. Alien disclosure, AI love affairs, glitch in the Matrix sightings. People moved on. And I think that was the point. They counted on it. They knew the world wouldn't believe what didn't fit neatly inside a headline or a YouTube Shorts caption. Reality is just entertainment now. Nothing shocks long enough to stick. I took Oliver with me to a small town near the mountains, the kind of place where everything closes by 8 and no one asks too many questions. He's been quiet. Not scared, not disturbed, just observant. Like he's still downloading the world. Sometimes I catch him staring at the sky for minutes on end, eyes narrowed like he's listening to something I can't hear. At night, he dreams loudly, talking in his sleep in voices that aren't his, whispering names we've never spoken aloud. I keep a journal now. I document everything: phrases, behaviors, changes in pattern. I'm not trying to fix him anymore. I'm just trying to understand. Because the truth is, I don't know if Oliver is really my son, or something that grew from the data they collected about him. Something they shaped in the lab. Something I helped raise without knowing. I went back to our old house once. It was empty. The lawn overgrown, the walls stripped bare. In the attic, I found one final piece of the puzzle. A black box labeled with nothing but the word remainder. Inside were old video files, thousands of them. Years of my life, stitched together from every perspective. First-person views, satellite drone footage, emotion-triggered replays. They had watched me long before the loop began. One video, dated months before I thought anything was wrong, showed Lauren standing by my bed at night, whispering to someone on the phone, her face too calm. "He's not questioning anything yet," she'd said. "Let the simulation keep him stable." I watched that one a dozen times. Then I deleted it. Closure is a myth. You don't get to tie a bow around your trauma and call it healed. But you can choose what you carry. I've stopped looking for the people who ran the experiment. I think they want me to. They want me hunting shadows, chasing ghosts, going mad. That's the final trap, isn't it? Obsession. Instead, I walk Oliver to the lake every morning, let him throw stones and talk to the water. Sometimes he hums the tune from that music box, the one Lauren used to play when she tucked him in. Only I never taught him that melody. And the box was never found. I haven't decided what I'll tell him when he asks who he really is. Maybe I'll lie. Maybe I'll say, "You're my son and that's all that matters." Maybe that's true. Or maybe the real test wasn't to see how I'd react inside a fake life, but how I'd respond once I knew it was fake. Whether I'd choose vengeance or love. The last time we visited the lake, Oliver picked up a flat stone and handed it to me. "They're still watching, you know," he said with that same distant smile. "But it's okay. They're learning too." I looked at the sky then, bright blue, no drones, no static, and for the first time in what felt like years I didn't feel fear. Just awareness. Just peace. But as we walked back home, I noticed something carved into the stone he gave me. A word. One I'd never spoken aloud but had always carried deep in the parts of my brain that still belonged to them. Restart. And I knew in some quiet part of me that the loop had never really ended. It had just moved on. To a deeper level.